Sparky Coach Pod. Crowdog
What's up?
Crowdog here with Camdog. Going in, this is actually funny because we posted yesterday about the Ford room. So it's the boardroom, but it's Josh Ford. Hey, 40.
Shout out to 40.
Shout out to the Ford Lord. Anyway, so he did runs a weekly board meeting for us. We call it the Ford room, that essentially builds community, puts the Sparkies in the one spot, and aircon lords, solar lords, and just gets it done. So
Electro technology lords.
all the Cert 3 electro technology lords upskilling themselves. So yesterday they did a session on cold calling, or just like reaching out cold to builders, specifically builders in this case. So what do you do when you reach out cold? And I didn't watch the session, but someone reached out to me and said, what do they talk about? And I was like, you cheapskate, give us some money, come into the program, we'll show you what happened. But then a part of me was like, you know what? Let's talk about what we think he did in that session. I don't know what he did in that session. I actually blew in for the last bit before I help desk and sort of saw, I think him and Tommy from Rylec did like a joint capability statement, which looked insane. Shout out to Ash from Rylec, who's just an absolute goddess on the Canva or some kind of sick platform. But yeah, anyway, it's interesting because he was like, how do I go about reaching out cold to builders? And it's interesting, right? Because whether you like it or not, cold calling does work. It's just a lower percentage play than a warm call. So a cold call, essentially, I feel like what you've got to do is compartmentalize the client. Someone, let's say 0 to 10, right? 0 is someone who's ranked a 0, has never used you before, and they've never heard about you before. 10 is someone who you have a great relationship with, who you can call and discuss a price with, who you can go to the footy with. So 0 is, no, never heard of you guys. 10 is use you guys religiously. I would die on a hill for you guys. So the customer, I would say customer experience, it's not the right word. The customer journey of taking someone from a 0 to a 10, you're never going to go from someone's never heard of you to someone who's going to die on a hill for you in a builder sense. On a residential punter sense, maybe someone types in electrician Geelong and your name comes up, like, oh crap, my usual person's not here. I'll call CRM. Of course, have the best experience. Oh my gosh, would die on a hill for these guys. They fixed my tripping RCD. What was it?
What was the fault?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just water in the power point at the pool pump every time.
Classic. Someone called me the other day. They're like, oh, there's a PowerPoint not working at the pool. Yeah, I've got to make it work. I was like, no, man, that's a switched PowerPoint for the pool light, 100%. Like, so, and that would have taken them 7 hours to fix. I reckon it's so funny. But when you're in the resi mode, you're in the mode. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so
the power and the value of labeling right there.
Yeah, just LTS on there.
Just one thing, just please, every Sparky, just label more.
Just label it with like
future self.
A blunt Sharpie and then smudge it a little bit before it sets. Anyway, we're chatting about cold reaching out. So taking someone from a 0 to a 10 is never going to happen on a larger scale. But the things that can take them, and this is when reaching out cold, I think it's a bit of a holistic approach. You're talking about you got to think of how a customer hears about you. They hear about you from your sign writing, from your reputation, from core flu signs on building sites. Like that kind of stuff is free branding. A car sign written and sign written well is a mobile billboard is driving around. Have you ever been to Japan and there's those like actual billboards driving around? And that's like, I think Surfers Paradise has them as well.
I'm pretty sure most capital cities in every place in the world has it now.
Perfect. It's like the giant Red Bull car. That's what you're driving around. Yeah. Giant car, right? So it's super interesting. So you got your core flu signs, you got your sign writing, you got your uniforms well presented. You're also looking at your website. The carpet must match the drapes. So you got to think about what's going to social proof you. Right? Social proofing is huge. So when you reach out to someone, now you might have made them cold. Now you've took them from a 0 to a 1, 1.52. Now they're aware you exist. Now you want to follow up with like some kind of email saying a bit about your company and hey, here's our capability statement. gonna social proof you, right? Here's who's used this in the past, who's happy with. Think about what else does that. Google reviews do that. So Google reviews coming into it and being like, oh, good enough for 200 people, good enough for me. Generally speaking, reaching out to a builder, they're not interested in your 200 Google reviews. They probably don't even have GMB set up. So you're in a different market than like, oh, hey, we changed 3 PowerPoints for Betty and she was like, you're in a different market to that, right? So your website must look like you can handle stuff. So if you go on, I take huge inspiration from builders' websites, like a high-end builder. Look up a high-end residential builder in your area. Chances are at the front page of their website is a sick house they've finished. One photo tells 1,000 words. As soon as I look at that photo, I'm like, you guys are capable. So your website has to match the capableness, whatever that word is. The website has to match like that. You can do it, right? Rob Schneider style, you can do it like that. It has to match that. So the website's going to social proof you. Which is going to be photos from projects. Your Instagram is going to social proof you, which is going to be photos from recent projects finished, which can't look like you're just punting around residential Betty style. Like it has to. You look at anyone that's doing good things in the project space, I guarantee you, if they're going to reach out cold, some of the best companies don't have Instagram. Just reference that. Some of the best companies don't have Instagram, don't have a website, don't have signwriting. So let's. It's not the be all and end all. But if you're reaching out cold with zero relationship, it matters, right? So if you want to grow a business, raw dog, no advertising, no nothing, you're going to need time in the game to establish a word of mouth reputation. There's nothing wrong with that. Actually, I think that's probably the smartest way to go about it if you're building a business for 50 years. The thing you might want to do is, if someone doesn't know about you, how can they use you? So you might want to take them from that 0 to a 5 by David Hasselhoffing, right? So you can do that. You can do that. You can pick up the phone and call 100 people. You can barge into job sites. You can do whatever you want. So Instagram matters. LinkedIn to a certain, I know 40 run through LinkedIn. That's a bit that I saw. I never had it. So you have to watch that session back to check that out. But Instagram is going to social proof you, Google reviews, your website, LinkedIn to a certain point, your signwriting, your office, basically everything about your company says something about your company, right? And the carpet must match the drape. So if someone's going to employ you or give you a shot, and they're going to need to know about you, and they're going to need to then know that you're comfortable and confident, and then you're going to have to quote 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs at a certain point before you even get into that. So it is a bit of a process, but cold reaching out, I'd say, I remember driving past building sites and getting out and walking in, knocking on the door. Like, generally speaking, and what I was saying before, the cold call percentage or cold drop in percentage, basically you touch base with 100 people. This is the rough rule, right? Touch base with 100 people, 20 are going to be like, yeah. And then 4 you might get to quote 4. It's a very low percentage play. But if you meet your ideal client from that 4%, that was well worth its time and hustle. Or if you've taken people from a 0 to a 5, a 0 to a 6, a 0 to a 2, a 0 to an 8, well worth the branding exercise that sort of cost you nothing but your time and maybe some bits and pieces of setting up stuff. So it's actually incredibly interesting to talk about. And as much as I would love to rubbish let me go back to this. So think about this, 100 phone calls for 20, let's talk about the 80. There's 80 calls in there that have fallen upon deaf ears, that have fallen upon the weeds, that have fallen upon the thorns, that have taken you time, energy, effort, and money you could have been earning elsewhere for a slap in the face. So there's lots of rejection. You kind of have to have that every no is closer to a yes. Every no is one step. You have to have some sort of hustle about you. You got to be able to get rejected like that. If you're going to cold call, you have to be comfortable with an element of rejection, right? But now they know about you. So that's interesting. But yeah, so reference the 80 people and also reference the yes, they've only got price to go off, but now they know about you. So can you build a relationship? Can you make your quoting process excellent? There's no point. Some of us hustle so hard for the client and then we get a chance to quote it and we're late in the quote. Sweet. Well, that just told the client that you suck. Basically, so you did
equally too. You can turn it around in 12 hours, and then that's set the expectation forever.
100%. So anyway, that's my cold call situation, or reaching out cold. You want to make sure you've got an element of stacked social proofing or reputation proofing to proceed forward. And then once they hear about you, they're going to see your van everywhere. If you've got sign writing. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I think, I know 40 touched on it yesterday around the fact that you're never in control of the builders, so to speak. So there's always influences that are beyond your control that can have an influence in their decision making. So I think first and foremost, have an understanding of that is that, there could be an opportunity where like you've worked with them for 4 or 5 years and then all of a sudden it comes to a halt. And could be a number of things. Obviously, try and find out first and foremost. That's a topic for another, obviously, conversation. But I think having an understanding that eventually something may come about that's beyond your control, or it could be something that occurred that you need to know about and find out. So I think there's an element of there's always got to be a little bit of hustle associated in this particular field. Because you got to remember that a builder works for a client, and the client ultimately is making the decision. So if the price ain't right, or the proposal doesn't fit into their box that they're after, ultimately they have the decision to start pulling it apart, however they feel and see fit.
Yeah, so you've got the builder who is like, no, I use my Sparky, and that only goes so far. Like if a client's going to give the builder a job, and it's $1 million job, $5 million job, and the client's got a Sparky that they like and they've worked with before, they're going to push for and plumber.
You don't have a choice.
They're going to push for that person, or the architect's got something in. So everyone on earth who's worked for a builder has come in as not the regular Sparky and been client approved. And the goal is to make that experience so good for the client and builder or commercial client, whatever, that they want to use you again. Yes. That's the goal, right? If you get your chance to get your foot in the door, you want to get your body in the
hands. So there's obviously an element of hustle. So 100% social proofing is the easiest way to go about it. Well, not easiest way to go about it, but there has to be some kind of, something to back up with what you're sort of saying. Now, I'm a bit of a believer in the sense that it is a long-term chip away. Basically, so you're chipping away a little bit. Very, very rarely are you gonna make a phone call or send an email and turn up on Monday, right?
You know what? You're probably on a par 5 to reference the goal.
Par 5.
Yeah, so you're driving, and then you got to chip in, and then you got to chip in again, and you got to 10
4 part.
Yeah, seven to 9.
And what I probably would liken that to is once you get on the green, you've now been given the opportunity, but you're going to have a few putts at the hole, which is basically you quoting before you're actually probably going to be given an opportunity. So this is where I sort of feel that it's actually a long-term game, and it's not, I think, recognize and understand that it's not going to happen overnight. So park that to one side. How to go about it? Obviously, have your house in order. So, social proofing, website, way you communicate with them, and then proposal that you put forward to them in an email sense, capability statement, all those sorts of bits and pieces. Now, I'm a bit of a believer. I don't think it needs to be over the top. I think it just needs to be simple, concise, and just well put together. Professional is probably the way I'd describe it. It doesn't need to be, a 2,000-word essay or anything like that. And then revisit it.
Reference to like people in coaching sense want checklists. Mm-hmm. And so we built this like business checklist. And it kind of annoyed me because I'm like, you're never going to check this 100-point checklist. You're never going to look at it. Like the one-on-ones will suffice the workbook will suffice your needs. But the fact that it's there is like, oh, cool, you guys got that. It's kind of like a capability statement. Probably no one's ever going to use it, but it's there.
And I think the other thing too is, I guess my sort of, not a wrap up on it all, but thoughts around it is, the question is being like, how do I do it? I think like anything that you do in business around it is that at some point you just got to do it. You just got to jump in. So that icy lake, you just got to jump into it if you want to get wet. That's the reality of it all. And you will learn along the way things that work and things that don't work, because there's going to be an element of bespokeness to every area. If you're regional, there's things that come into play. If you're metropolitan, there's things that come into play. And then also everywhere in between. So different parts of Australia, different things will come into play that affect you. So if it's something that you're interested in, I would just encourage you to just have a crack and start the process, because I know for me in my time that the opportunity may come 1-2 years down the track. So if you're thinking like, oh, I'll just put it off for now and I'll do it I'll do it next year, or I'll do it next month, or I'll do it in 2 years' time, is that the reality is that there's an element of kicking the can down the road. Because if you think it's just going to click your fingers and the opportunities start flooding in, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be a little bit of a longer term burn, because you're going to need some opportunities. And understand, I think the key here too, is the one I want to finish on around it, is understand the pool that you're swimming in with the type of client builder that you're going for. Because if you move straight into that commercial world, there's potential that you're going to be dealing with contract administrators. You're going to be dealing with really tight contracts, really tight progress claims, and retentions involved in it as well. So just have an understanding. If that's something you've never experienced before, you need to get a little bit of an understanding around it, because it can jump. I guess the effect on it can be cash flow problems, non-understanding of contractual agreements, liquidated damages can come into it, all these sorts of things, which can be, I'm going to say crippling is probably the easiest way to describe it. They can be crippling to your business. So I think you need to just understand which pool you want to swim in.
Yeah, for sure. And also the golf analogy, there's going to be people playing behind you and playing in front of you. So just because you have a builder on lock now or a client on lock now doesn't mean that's going to stay the case. If you drop the ball a couple of times, or organically become more expensive, or your business grows, so your capacity grows, so your overheads grow, so your price increases, and then
Or you just organically shift apart, like just through alignment.
So it can happen organically or forced. That a commercial client can basically stop using you because, let's face it, if I was doing a renovation now, you'd probably rather have the weapon business owner on the tools. It's going to happen super quickly, organized, clinical, neat, tidy. Not all clients, but some clients, the perfect fit is the business owner still on the tools, and they'll rotate through that way. So just because you don't need work now, and I love that you said, you might get a chance in 2 years' time or 3 months' time or whatever. You kind of have to future-proof yourself, because just because you've got certain work on lock now, it doesn't mean that's going to stay the case. And you might not be a great fit for them anymore. And sometimes you got to call that out. They might not be a great fit for you anymore. Sometimes you might need to call that out. And it's like, so if you're going to need to consistently sort of replace people, when I say consistently, hopefully not, but you might need to replace that person in 2 or 3 years, or in 2 or 3 years, your staff might double. So now you need more hours. So now you need more clients, but thank God you reached out 2 years ago. Thank God you reached out 6 months ago. Thank God you took that client from a 0 to a 5 6 years ago, so just really focus up and work out what you want to do and how you want to do it and how you want to go about it. And I think, it's just interesting. Like, you're going to keep clients. Hopefully you're not going to lose clients, but organically the percentage play is that not everyone's going to be a good fit forever. And that's cool. And I think recognizing that, but maintaining good relationships and healthy relationships throughout that is critical to business success. So wherever you are, take someone from a 0 to a 4.
Thanks for listening. As always, enjoy your day and give it a crack.
Peace.
Catch ya.